what we should expect from season 2? With all the spoilers possible.
Yeah. Well, I think we can say it's the story has grown. It's become more global. It takes place on a bigger stage, slightly more international. The stakes of the overall story have naturally grown as well. In terms of themes, we really wanted Series 2 to be all about the relationships. So, I mean, obviously Humans is a show largely about the relationship between us and our ever faster developing technology. And we really wanted to kind of just explore that question through as many different kinds of relationships between humans and synths in the show as possible. So you'll find that almost every character either has a new and unexpected relationship between humans and synths, between synths and synths, humans and humans. They have a new relationship, or they have a big change for their existing one. Because we just thought those relationships were so interesting, and we've got such a wonderful cast, and so that's really where we are.
I was wondering, like how you went about. Like one of my favorite things in the first season was kind of like the human backlash, like the We Are People movement. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you developed that, or just kind of how you developed that as a plot point.
Mm-hmm.
I think we sort of approached that in the way we approached everything in the show, and because it's sort of it's a sci-fi show, but the route into it is so sort of grounded, and the fact that it takes place in a sort of a parallel present, it's not the future. We just tried to think very carefully about exactly what would really happen in this world, and it seemed to us that with the introduction of synths, predominantly into the workplace and into industry, that there would be a backlash of people who are losing their jobs and being usurped by synths. So we thought there would naturally be a sort of a movement to reflect that. It's something we've gone a bit further with in the second season. Because the synths, we wanted to sort of, as Sam was saying, the world's grown, and we want to show how the synths have penetrated further into all our lives. That there are just more and more jobs being lost, more and more people sort of keen to see the back of these machines.
And in terms of that particular group, what we imagine is that they have evolved from a kind of street pressure group, like these groups do, to a more sort of official political group. They're kind of a bit more, they put on a suit and tie. They now are kind of lobbying more at the governmental level rather than protesting in the streets so much, because we sort of, that seems to be what happens to these kind of protest groups. They sort of mature a bit. So yeah, that's where we're with that.
You talked a little bit about how the story's going to go a little bit more global. Mm-hmm. Can you just talk a little bit more about that? Because we do have Carrie-Anne Moss, joining the show, and Mark Allman.
Yes, so Carrie-Anne, we have two American actors join the show, Carrie-Anne Moss and Marshall Allman, who play, and their story does start over here in San Francisco in Silicon Valley. She plays the world's sort of preeminent AI expert, Dr. Athena Morrow, and Marshall plays a guy called Milo Curry, who's like a young Silicon Valley billionaire. And so their story starts on the West Coast, and eventually kind of comes back over to the UK. She comes over to the UK. That's where the kind of story starts to focus and accelerate. But yes, very much we kind of wanted to kind of bring in that global feel. And they're kind of involved in something which is very mysterious. He brings her in to work on a top secret project. Can't tell you too much more about what that is. But it's not just America. We also, the first episode also has scenes in Berlin. It also has a kind of very brief scene in Bolivia. And that's because what is actually happening in a global sense is something that's happening all over the world. So we knew we couldn't just say that, we needed to see it, we needed to feel it. And I think we do in the first story, although the kind of heart of the story is still in the UK, really. That's where the sort of, it all kind of is drawn together at the end.
A question I always usually ask is if you have a dream actor you would love to be in the show. Do you have any ideas for that? Is there anyone that you're like, oh, I'd love that to be in there?
Blimey, that's an interesting question. I think, to be honest, we sort of always would start with the characters first, and decide who those characters are in our world, and then find the actor that would best portray them. So I think if you try and start doing it the other way around, you sort of start, the actor you've got in mind for it starts to sort of bleed into the character and the roles they've done before and all that sort of stuff. So we try and avoid thinking about that sort of thing,
Having said that, I'd love to see Rutger Hauer as a synth, even just in cameo, because he played, probably my favourite ever on-screen androids. So to sort of see him as a synth, or him to pop up, would be a lovely nod. Or just one of the actors who's really famous for playing a grey android, Brent Spiner, would be another one. That would be a huge amount of fun. But no, as John says, we start with the character usually.
Do you now, when you see other like properties that involve like AI, like David and Prometheus, or Westworld just started next week, do you watch it with like, oh, they did it that way, or like how do they explain their technology?
Yeah, I mean,
critical?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, of course. It's funny, people sort of think, oh, do you sort of, there's quite a lot of stories like this around, but we sort of welcome it actually, because there's, when there's 500 scripted shows on TV and AI is such a powerful and growing force in our society that, there's room for quite a lot of stories about this, we feel. So we're always fascinated to see how other people approach it. We watched Westworld the other night, obviously thinking, I wonder how they're going to do this, and seeing where they sort of have arrived at similar conclusions to us and where they've differed. No, it's great. We really welcome it. I love those milk baths at the robots. they were good. I felt a bit envious of those. Yeah.
When season 2 was approved, what do you think was your biggest challenge in this new chapter?
I think sort of expanding the world and making it different while sort of holding true to what was popular about the show in the first place. So I think the broad appeal of the show came from the fact that it was a kind of a domestic setting, and it's sort of very relatable, and people could sort of understand the world quite easily, rather than it being a sort of a slightly more sort of mythology-heavy sci-fi world. So I think the challenge was to sort of move the story on while still keeping that. I mean, sort of, to a certain extent, in our world, the cat's out of the bag for the audience in terms of the fact that there are conscious synths out there. So that's not a card we can play again. So we had to, do something different and work out different ways to sort of to kind of just explore the different synth stories that there would be, sort of evolving in this world.
Yeah, you can't. The biggest challenge is to not repeat yourself. Really, you can't. Our philosophy is you can't do that. We cannot repeat. The sort of central dynamic of series 1 was the robot in the house with the family, and does it mean you harm, or does it? We can't do that again. The story's moved on. You've got to find new dynamics. So that's always the challenge but it's also what makes it exciting and thrilling is you genuinely always are looking to move your story on, to change things, to find new things in it. So that's what's scary, but it's also what's exciting.
The idea of AI is such an interesting one. I mean, you have so many different theories of what will happen once we really develop it. I mean, I read somewhere that Elon Musk basically thinks the head of Google will be the downfall of humanity, because even though they're best friends, he's creating AI and he thinks that's the end of it. So how do you decide to tell your story and kind of balance the different viewpoints of what could happen?
I think balance is the key. We never wanted to show this world as either a sort of dystopia or a utopia, which I think would sort of be the more sort of usual route that a sci-fi show or a movie would go down, especially dystopia. We just wanted to present this world in as real a way as possible, and leave it to our audience to decide whether these are going to be a good or a bad thing. I think obviously the stories in the media that attract the most attention are the sort of doom-mongering ones. And there obviously, a huge amount of very smart people like Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking. They're all saying that AI is the next sort of big existential threat to humanity. But equally, we've spoken to AI experts that say that it's going to be the thing that sort of solves all the world's problems, whether that's health or the economy or anything. So I think that we want to show both sides of the story.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Demis Hassabis, Elon Musk, who's the head of Google DeepMind, or I think it's now called just DeepMind again. But and he's the kind of head of AI. He's the founder of that company. He did the thing with AlphaGo, which was the program that beat the champion at Go in Korea. And we know him a bit. He's a friend of the show. He's been on set, and we've appeared with him. So we've heard his, and he's the other side. He's the huge optimist. He says this is a tool. This is going to solve all kinds of problems for us. And it's great that he's friends with Elon Musk, who's very kind of worried and doubtful about it. There's a drama right there, just between Demis and Elon. You're on one side, that would we'll try and get the rights to that.
Yeah, we can write that.
Actually, no, that's something that Aaron Sorkin needs to write. I think that's his kind of thing. But yeah.
Working in the creative field, do you think of AI as less of a threat? Because first they'll probably do practical things before they get creative.
Well, maybe, but it's. I'm not too sure about that. You sort of. I was recently listening to a song composed in the style of the Beatles been composed by an AI algorithm, and it wasn't bad. It was sort of slightly frightening because it was a bit weird in places, but it kind of sounded like the Beatles. It's so.
But that said, have you heard the Friends script written by a robot?
No.
That's really crap. It's not good. So, but I think inevitably, eventually, if AI gets good enough, it will move into more creative industries. I think that's a long way off. So we're not worried much.
Yeah, we've got a few more good years, maybe. But then, eventually, I think that a lot of stories kind of follow similar paths, don't they? I mean, good guys win in the end, etc. The 5-act structure. These are all why aren't these things that a computer algorithm couldn't master? So in a way, I guess I'm saying that AI could probably write a rather predictable film. Probably couldn't write an Oscar-winning masterpiece just yet. But then
we haven't done that yet.
We haven't done that yet either.
Yeah.
So who knows?
You worked in spies, and now you're in AI. Do you have other genres that you're writing an Oscar-winning script? What genre would you go into?
Well, we actually started off as comedy writers, so we're not really sure why or how we ended up writing about spies.
It's because we're not funny.
Yeah, maybe
that was a big stumbling block for us. Being
has
comedy
something
writers.
to do with it.
Yeah.
We do know we love these genres. We've always liked science fiction our entire lives. I'm more Star Trek, John's more Star Wars. That's the kind of line.
That's the divide.
But we managed to get over that. So we love that, and we want to continue in that. But no, it's not our only interest. We kind of range around a fair bit.
Just curious, because you were saying that you are fans of sci-fi and everything. You had mentioned Blade Runner, but is there any other movie, sci-fi movie, that really sticks out in your head that kind of serves as inspiration, or just man, that's a really cool idea. I kind of wish I got that one, or something like that?
AI-wise, I guess 2001. HAL in 2001 is sort of the sort of biggest influence. It's one of the first sort of AI movies the earliest AI movies that we both saw. So that's a big favourite. You like the film AI, don't you? You're a big fan.
I do like the film AI, yeah. I like the whole thing as well. People say, oh yeah, it's good until the end. And I say, I like the end as well. The end is my favourite bit. 2001 as well. The scene where Dave shuts down Hal is, probably the sort of greatest AI-related scene in the history of cinema. So those films, love Christopher Nolan's science fiction films.
Have you ever seen Alien? Alien, yeah.
No, not heard of that one. Yeah.
No, they had the AI in that one, which is spoiler alert if anyone hasn't seen that.
Yeah.
Come on, you've all seen that. You'd be surprised.
That's wonderful as well. That's a really fantastic. I mean, some of the design choices on the androids in the Alien film series are wonderful. Like the way they were white inside and kind of semi-organic. That was sort of wonderfly new territory. It wasn't kind of steel inside.
But again, that's one of sort of the original sort of AI as a sort of dystopian. These things are gonna, screw us. But then obviously in Aliens, they sort of turn that on its head with Bishop, being the saviour of everything. So it's great, great.